tuning in to What the Truck. It is Chad Prevost here, Dooner. I don't care what they say, you can really play some cowbell.
What's up, all you Freight Alley cats? We're coming to you live from a very beautiful day here in Chattanooga, and if the street wasn't so loud and the streets had no names, we would be out there doing it right from Market Street here in good old chitty Chattanooga, right?
Yes, it is a beautiful day. I wish we had more 75-degree breezy days like this.
It is nice. It's been so humid almost every nice day leading up to this. I felt like as long as I've been here.
So lovely today. May they all be like this. It is great to have you on. We are doing all kinds of things, so many things happening in a very exciting week here. And before we hit the headlines, we got to pay some bills. Thanks to our sponsor, Triumph Pay. Triumph Pay is the leading carrier payment platform in transportation. With over 50,000 carriers paid, Triumph Pay helps to drive capacity, efficiency, and cash flow for brokers and shippers. Visit TriumphPay.com to learn more. Target had same-day delivery for $9.99. That's right. Target, they're trying to play the game, too. They say that their same-day option is going to cover 65,000 items. That sounds like a lot, right? Yeah. Shoppers using Target's loyalty card will get a mere 5% discount, but at least something. Last month, remember, Walmart, they rolled out their next-day delivery with this minimum order of $35 on their most popular items.
You know what, though? I wonder if, because on Walmart, I ordered a bubbler. I ordered a water bubbler for my house, and the thing about it is, this thing cost over $35, and it did not get shipped to me in one day. It actually took like 6 days for it to arrive.
Yeah, they have like funny little ways of saying it's like, well, it's 2 days after we ship it. You know, things like that. I don't know. But, so in the meantime, Amazon, they upgraded, we know this, their free shipping option for Prime members who pay the $119 a year to just a one-day delivery. So, it seems like it's bad news for final mile delivery firms who are already struggling to keep pace with the consumer expectations of the, that Amazon set. And, but hey, there's more players in the game than Amazon. Walmart's in this, and apparently Target too.
Well, I mean, everybody is. Everybody who does ECom. It's not just them, but it's now this bar that's been set at 2-day, 1-day, and same-day delivery. They're raising the tide, and all the ships have to follow them, but we know how expensive shipping can be. If I'm a retailer, I might almost be looking more into giving discounts, or even that thing I suggest for Walmart. Like, if you spend over $35, why not get like a $5 gift card to go in the store? It costs a lot of money to ship these things in one day.
Yeah, and Walmart and Target are in the top 5 exporters and importers in the U.S. They're playing big ball.
Uber is always in the news, and they are reportedly, so when we saw their financials, they had this thing called Uber Bets, right? And Uber is reportedly contemplating a jump into financial technology services. I guess, they have, $3 billion in revenue? That's a lot of cash. But Uber has plans on providing financial services for drivers and independent contractors. There was a report in CNBC and explained that the company could also look at launching bank accounts within its ecosystem aside from its existing Uber Cash and branded credit card program. So it looks like they're really trying to diversify because they also lost $1 billion. So they've got to figure out some ways to bring in the money. It's almost like Amazon uses retail as almost this sort of Trojan horse to build out these other networks like Amazon Web Services. So maybe Uber will be kind of doing the same thing. You have the car thing, and that gives you the brand name. But then they really make their money in financial services. Could be.
Diversify is right. It's a fintech play as much as the freight tech that they've been in. U.S. weekly rail traffic slumps 8.5%. Flooding impacts, cheap natural gas prices, trade, and economic uncertainty, Dooner, could be factors contributing to a significant slump in weekly U.S. rail volume.
I haven't talked about rails lately.
They fell 8.5% to what they're saying is about 513,000 carloads and intermodal units for the week that ended this past June 8th. And that's just all according to the Association of American Railroads.
I've always wanted to hop on a rail car and take one, across state lines, sort of outlaw style. There's actually this great blog series I saw online where there's all these black and white photos of hipsters that are riding in these rail cars around the United States. It's I don't know.
I did that once in college.
Really?
It was, I hopped on with a crazy dude and we went for a little while, and as soon as we could get off, we did. Thank goodness I didn't learn a lesson the super hard way.
Is that how you learned your crazy, sick harmonica skills?
What, this?
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're quick on the draw with that one. Little California.
Hey,
you know where I would like to hop on a rail car through, though?
yeah, where?
The big state of Texas, man. That seems like the kind of place to do it. And Texas had a super active day. Texas signs a bill opening new doorways to trade. It was Texas Governor Greg Abbott. He signed a bill directing the Texas Department of Transportation.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, to study the ports to plains corridor, a plan that could extend Interstate 27 from Laredo all the way up to Oklahoma and Texas border. He signed that on June 10th.
Help.
But that's not the only thing they signed. They also signed the CBD law into effect to making non-psychoactive hemp and CBD legal to pass through the state. So it's at a federal level, but it looks like the states are also passing them, so we don't get another situation, I guess, like we had up in Idaho.
Yeah, nothing psychoactive, please. So all of these headlines and more can be found at our brand new and improved website at FreightWaves.com.
Ooh, do you like candy, Chad?
Do I?
I like candy.
I like the... Oh.
Whoa, so we got Zach Strickland in here. He is fresh off the Nashville boat from the candy conference. And what was this thing called that you were at?
So the Confectionery Logistics Council?
Ooh.
Oh, they're making it sound fancy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was pretty intense.
Well, what's your favorite kind of candy?
I like the dark chocolate.
Dark
really?
chocolate.
Go in that direction?
Yeah.
Once you get dark chocolate, you never go back to milk chocolate.
Lately, I've been on a nostalgia kick kind of with candy. I like the lemon heads, the Jolly Ranchers, sour stuff.
You might have a perfect segue here. I was going to say something else, but Zach and I were sitting next to each other, and he came back from this conference, and he had all of these bags of candy. And one of the first things I noticed, though, was all these brands I'm really super familiar with. Those lemon heads you mentioned. We even saw like a Yoo-Hoo candy. But they were all, the big label on the back, on the front was Brock's. And I didn't realize that Brock's was this huge umbrella. And Zach, tell us kind of what you learned there about who produces this candy and why or what is popular now.
Yeah, so I got to meet a lot of the big candy producers in America as well as the world. But they basically explained to me, like, no, Nestle doesn't actually own Nestle Crunch anymore. And I was like, how can that even be a thing, you know? And they start spitting out all these different candies and stuff. And what they've been doing is, they'll sell off a piece of, they'll sell this candy to this maker, and they kind of swap back and forth because a lot of the trends right now are going to the healthier snack foods. So the candies that they're having a lot of success with in terms of sales are the nostalgic ones, the ones that we grew up with, all the lemon heads and the Topps bubble gum, for instance, like Bazooka Joe. And
remember Big League Chew?
Sure.
No, they're having a lot of success.
Got detention for that. And did they have five? Remember Fruit by the Foot? No, was that Fruit by the Foot? It was the bubble tape, the 5 foot long thing of gum. And when you were a kid, you would just stick the whole thing in your mouth like, at once.
Yeah, that's more what my kids did.
These are like fillings pullers. So when you were there, how many producers of candy were there? Because all of these brands we know, like we looked on the back of the bag, and it was all really just like Ferrero, right? That was doing all the ones we know.
A lot of Ferrero, a lot of so they had Palmer and Lindt, who makes the high end chocolate.
Oh yeah,
several
others. Peppermint bark, those little peppermint bark chocolates you always see around Christmas.
Yummy.
Yeah, no, and I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but I mean it was a few big producers. Mars and Hershey weren't there, but they're the two biggest in the country. But
so naturally, this conference that was made up of a lot of shippers in the supply chain. Like what did you learn? What was your connection to it?
Well, I was going to say something, Chad. I was going to quiz you really quick because I am a very good listener. How do you think that they move candy in a truck? What type of truck do you think they may use to move just candy, just regular candy?
Are you asking me or Zach?
Well, he already knows, so I'm asking you.
An LTL?
No, well, they may. But we were being a little sure. They use reefer carriers, don't they?
A lot of reefer, mostly reefer.
Sense.
And then there's tank, obviously, some bulk tank equipment. But the majority of the carriers that were there, and that was one of the fascinating things about this conference, is that it was the shippers and the carriers together in the same room. And they were getting together to discuss issues, and they were trying to get on the same page about things, which I thought was fascinating.
There's going to be so many 3PL sales guys down there, and they're just going to be all over that.
No, well, there were 3PLs there too.
Yeah,
but it was a really good conference. They got together, and a lot of their stuff is reefer. but also a lot of LTL. So you weren't wrong.
Why do they treat the candy like a perishable? I understand with chocolate, right? If it got hot, it would melt. And I guess if you've ever put like those lemon heads in your pocket, they'll get really melty and they'll start sticking together if they get too warm.
Yeah, well, it's not just that, but the consistency of the candy changes. Even something like a Tic Tac, apparently, it gets too hot or too cold. The consistency of that candy changes and the quality's gone. And one of their big concerns that they were talking about was the fact that there is a quality control aspect to shipping the product, and they get fined by their vendors if they don't have the product there. One, in the time slot allotted, but also in the appropriate, like what they were expecting. So if they're a box off or the candy comes out and it looks terrible, they get fined for that. So they lose a lot of money that way.
So transparency is part of what they're trying to figure out, how to monitor things, I guess, the entire time.
Yeah, no, they need to deal with transparency on the whole supply chain for them. But the carriers specifically, they need to get it, like they need to be able to operate. And when volumes are down, like they have been over the last little bit, it is harder for them to manage those distribution networks because a lot of them are LTL, and reefer is a very one-way carrier situation.
Nice. Well, thank you so much before you go, one last thing. Who had the coolest, most colorful display at this? Was this a conference that was like a FreightWaves live event? Did they have I Want Candy? Did they have music like that playing?
No.
It Marcy's Playground, playing live there?
It wasn't anything like that.
Oh.
They were. It was literally a nice, solid, small group of people that got together and had a discussion in a room, and I gave a speech and told them all about FreightWaves.
Did they have like a hot tub full of candy that you just
like
could
liquid
jump into?
They sort of did, and they basically, why you see all that candy is because they're like, please take it, because they couldn't get it on the plane going back.
I've never seen a desk more popular in my life than the one next to yours when you came back from that conference. Don't push me, push a push pop. But speaking of nostalgia, it's on to our next guest.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us, Zach.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Zach.
5, count of 5 good minutes.
Oh, we're here on the line with Blythe Brumleve. Right, Blythe, where are you dialing in to us from?
I am dialing in from the lovely but cloudy Jacksonville, Florida. It's sort of the on the border of Florida and Georgia.
Oh, right before you came on, I was telling my compatriot here, Mr. Chad Prevost, that you do work with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he started giving me a dirty look because it turns out that he likes an equally elite team in the Tennessee Titans.
Oh no!
Tighten up, yeah. And I have to say, I've relished in the misery of those Jacksonville Jaguars. Everybody was saying they were the sleeper team in 2018, and then I don't know what happened. I mean, it wasn't just the quarterback's fault, was it? Where did that defense go?
It's the Jaguars. They give you just a little bit of a reason to have hope, as we saw in the 2017 season where we unexpectedly made it to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
But then in 2018, all of us were predicting Super Bowl or bust, and here we are. It's one of those another embarrassing moments on the Jaguars record. But I guess that's typically sports fans in general. You build up the hope in the offseason, and then it's crushed into oblivion.
Aside from you, my favorite Jacksonville player turned broadcaster, not that you were a player, but the favorite broadcaster is Maurice Jones-Drew. He used to be on Dan Patrick's show all the time.
Oh, yes.
Are you familiar?
Oh, yeah. He's an icon here in Jacksonville, and he usually stays in our good graces because he always picks the Jaguars, and he always has really good insight into the team itself. So anytime there's a big game in town, he usually comes back in town for it, and we'll cover it for the NFL Network.
So, Blythe, you're not just with football, though. We're not here just to talk football. There's a reason and I kind of touched on it. You work in supply chain marketing, and FreightWaves, the company, also sort of renowned for some of the marketing we do. And I think we both approach it in ways of, making an impact, putting some differentiation. What do you kind of see in the marketing landscape in freight right now?
In freight right now, it's still a little old school. There are really only a handful of companies that come to mind that are actually doing some what I would call interesting marketing. And I think with a lot of the companies out there, they're not sure where to start. And for the majority of companies, you can all have the same bells and whistles, but they're missing out on the opportunity of actually spotlighting their one unique resource, and that's their employees, that's their drivers. Surprisingly, a lot of drivers have a huge community on social media channels such as Reddit and YouTube, and using those to your advantage is what I think a lot of companies are missing out on.
Yeah, I mean, one of the ways that I think that we began to differentiate ourselves at FreightWaves was like through the technology thing. There's a lot of tech; it's in the industry, a lot of freight tech. Do you think that's a way in for making marketing and logistics and supply chain and trucking a little cool kid again?
I think it's honestly, it comes down to storytelling because everybody, the majority of companies, whenever they're conducting their marketing, they think that they can just put a website up, 10 years ago and that's plenty and that's enough. But to compete in today's world, you really need to be creating content and telling stories on your own platform. And like I said, you can have all the bells and whistles and you can have the technology piece, but if you're not putting content out there that's resonating with your target audience, that's where analytics will come into play. But there's a lot of analytics programs out there that as far as like your website only is concerned, that can really give you a lot of valuable insight. And a lot of those programs are free. So I think it's just a lack of knowledge for the majority of the industry.
You played right into me promoting my own show that I may have you on one day, which is FreightWaves Insiders, which is exactly that. I've been with this company for a few months now, and one of the first things I learned in talking to people and looking at their LinkedIns was these amazing stories that so many people within these walls share. And we talk about things like market experts, but it's really important, kind of as you said, to put some context to it, to put a lens behind that camera. Why is what these people saying is important? And you need background for there. And I think that a lot of people in this business, they're kind of looking for that to grab onto because we don't really, as employees, we don't really have that much support. No one's really spotlighted enough.
No, not at all. And like I said, people do business with other people. So they want to know who's behind the phone and who's behind the email that they're talking with all the time. And perhaps you're sending out customer gifts or you're talking to a carrier customer service relationship team and you have no idea what their story is. You don't know what kind of sports teams they like. It's using your unique advantage. And that's your own people that can be hugely beneficial to a lot of companies out there if they're searching for some kind of marketing solutions. It's right within your own building.
Well, as a matter of fact, Blythe, I'm an outsider to the industry, and I've been here about a year and a half, and I'm a creative writing PhD. And, and at first, though, I came on with FreightWaves, and I was one of the few editorial correspondents. I was learning journalism techniques. I was learning about the industry at the same time, and I was kind of hiding behind my story, not wanting to reveal that I was an outsider trying to sound somewhat like an authority. And then this past Transparency about a month ago, when I introduced the show, I just came out and just kind of told my story in like a couple of minutes, and it seemed to really open up the floodgates, and lots of other people began sharing with me their stories. So I think what you said is very interesting. Can you tell us briefly, what's your story? How did you get into this logistics business?
Sure. So it was about 10 years ago that I was working as a waitress and I had a side hustle, which was a sports and entertainment blog. And I thought, like any blogger, that it was going to take off and go to crazy heights. And of course, it's, building any business, it's a long drawn out process. So I joined with a 3PL. It was a company called Elite Transportation, which has since closed down. But I was an executive assistant and I worked there for about 5 years closely with the executive team. And I think that's where, and I know that's where I got the majority of my business acumen that I have today and knowledge of the industry is working side by side with the CEO, the CFO, and the COO of that company. And that's really where I saw a lot of problems that could be fixed, and especially in the marketing and web design landscape.
A little cowbell for that. You have a much greater story that cannot be told in 5 good minutes. So I'm going to have you back on FreightWaves Insiders later on in the summer.
Sounds like you should.
Yeah. Well, Chad, you'll be on it too. Yeah. So that'll be the storytelling thing. It's going to be a great time. But just to promote yourself real quick, for you giving us your time, where can people find out more about Blythe Brumleve brands and some of the things that you're doing?
Sure. So Brumleve Brands is my essentially my umbrella company, and under that umbrella company is a company called Digital Dispatch, who we actually just demoed some software at the last FreightWaves conference. So that is where I spend the majority of my time, is on digitaldispatch.co.
That is fantastic.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for joining us. Get back to that cloudy weather in Jacksonville, and it's
Miserable weather.
And the best time in the season for any Jacksonville Jaguars fan is before the season starts, and I say that as a Jets fan because
we always win the off season, so that's something to look forward to.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic to have you on. Nice to meet you here. Way to go.
Thank you guys for having me.
Nice. So how many pieces of candy do you think you've eaten out of Zach's bag? Over, under 10 pieces of candy?
Under.
Earnings over, under.
Thank you guys for joining us today. I had a 1 week chance to play this game. I lost. You had the 4 week winning streak. I'm back in my favorite position, which is hosting this show, and you're back in yours, which is competing to be the best earnings over, under champion on earth.
Well, let's hope so.
Let's hope so. So I'm going to have the questions for you. I've got to make them black again because I white them out so you can't see them on my list. So earnings over and under. Introduce yourself, young man.
Hello, Brad Ganane here.
Brad
Ganane, my next victim, competitor.
Brad Night Train Ganane.
I do work at FreightWaves.
Nice.
I do.
You do?
It's official. I know you were questioning me for a while. I do.
Yeah.
I know you see me
Oh,
around.
yeah, you disappeared for like a week and a half.
Yeah, I actually do work here.
They put you on location.
On location. They were sick of me. Here.
So what do you do around here?
I'm the director of sales and business development for Sonar.
Nice, man.
Multi-talented. Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, well, then I hope you can beat this man at this because he gets very cocky and very arrogant every time he wins.
Well, he's got a cue sheet. What's he got over there?
I'm not looking at it.
I don't have anything in front of me. He's got notes.
Turn those notes around. Turn those notes because I just turn them black on you. So, all right, earnings over under, very simple. So we say a number and you just pick over or under, right? And since you are new, a gentleman's choice, would you let him go first or would you like to go first?
As the reigning champ, I think I'd like to go first.
You're not the reigning champ. You lost. You're the reigning loser.
Okay.
Just like the Golden State Warriors in their hometown tonight, I'm in your booth. Your home place. You're going down, Chad. You're going down.
All right, guys, let's get to it. Retailer Lululemon. I hope you're familiar with there. It doesn't look like you got those pants from there, but if you wear hot yoga pants, which you could in this studio, they'd be right at home. You might shop at Lululemon, wouldn't you?
Oh, I love those yoga pants.
They just had their earnings call. Were earnings per share 70 cents over under?
Over.
All right, he's going over.
You sound very confident. Do you have any reasoning behind that?
Well, no, we do that after we come to this. Are you trying to?
Don't.
You're trying to scam his answers?
What are you trying to do?
He's trying to scam his answers.
Well, I would go over too, but in the spirit of fun play, I guess I'll go under.
Oh, you should have tried to match him and block his point. He was right. Lululemon surprised investors by coming in at 74 cents a share. The stocks have actually surged by more than 40% this year. So why did you decide to go over there?
Have you seen their spring line, their summer line?
I haven't.
We will. I don't know. I'm not. Restoration Hardware. They're now known as RH, formerly known as Restoration Hardware. $1.55 earnings per share. Jad, over under.
Under.
Mm-hmm.
With where we're seeing the housing starts numbers lately, I'm going to go with over.
Oh, very good choice. Let's go.
No.
2-0. You're kind of like in the hole I was in last week.
I've been down 0-2, 0-2, and come back.
All right. Well,
don't call it a comeback.
Okay. These guys demoed at Transparency 19, a FreightWaves live event. Dallas-based Corey Reader Technology is also a guest on this very show. They have announced that it's raised over under $59,000 in a seed round of funding this week.
That would be over.
Okay.
Under.
Now you're just
I knew.
playing.
I knew.
He's going northbound on a southbound train.
I knew when I was starting off.
Yeah,
second, this wasn't going to go well.
The money is intended to be used to build its AI-driven automation and video feed data capture suite for the Transportation and Logistics Center. I'm sure you went over because they demoed at T19, and that's where the magic happens, right?
That is, and I am an avid reader of FreightWaves.com. Shameless plug, $60,000 seed investment.
Yep,
Oh,
they did.
so
He knew the
you
exact
did your
number.
research.
Yeah. All right, how about this, guys?
You're not supposed to do your research.
What? You can just read. You can read our own website. And
Solid.
any news you like. You just can't know the questions. Okay. The Port of Los Angeles, right? The Port of Los Angeles, we're speaking of FreightWaves.com, we are really ratcheting up our maritime coverage and our maritime data and sonar. But the Port of Los Angeles saw its best container volumes of the year since January and May. But were they up or down from May last year?
Wow. Down.
I'm going to go down as well.
Oh, you're just going to totally block him. All right, well, you're both right. Great job.
Wow, he is a true competitor, isn't he?
He's going to be tough to get out of this booth because he might have to come back. Not only have you been a good guest at this game, but you just rock solid. So, yeah, in the wake of the renewed U.S.-China trade tensions, the combined inload containers at the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach actually fell 6.3% from a year ago. So still doing well for, this year, the best we've seen, and the exports are down 7.4%, but in terms of this year, good news. Okay, last one, and again, this is just for pride. Are crude oil prices up or down from last week?
Whose turn is it?
I guess it doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't.
Losers first.
Crude oil prices, are they up or down?
From last week.
They are up.
Okay.
I'm going to go down.
Oh, you shouldn't have. You could have. You could have.
Not shut out.
Not shut out. You're like the Bruins last night. They finally got a goal in. It's 4-1. My hometown team.
Wow, nice job.
Didn't show up. Yeah, thank you very much.
Wow, entertaining.
You'll have to come back next week because you seem like you might be a really tough opponent. I'll have to take you on, and I'm scared. I'll have to really do my research.
Challenge accepted.
All right, thank you, sir.
Way to throw down the gauntlet.
So he's a tough opponent, and you know what he's on now? He is on our radar.
On the Radar, presented by Sonar.
Oh, here comes the tallest man to ever step inside the truth booth. It is Henry
All
Byers.
6'8" of him.
6'8". Henry, how much do you weigh at 6'8"?
It depends on the time of year, but right now,
Not that that's a private question or anything, right?
I'm sitting about 245.
All right, because sometimes you'll see I was playing NBA 2K on my thing, like NBA 2K20, and there was a player on there's like 6'11", 195 pounds, and I'm like, what in God's name, man? How does he not blow away? Yeah.
Man, when I was about 13, I was 6'4", 145.
Oh wow,
that's pretty skinny.
Well, you know what? We just talked about crude oil on our last segment, and we also talked about the Port of Los Angeles. We know that Sonar, especially thanks to you, is really starting to build up, not just on the news side, but on our data side. We just brought the Drury Index on there, correct? And we've got some spot market rates in there, and we're really, in Sonar 5.0, you're going to be blown away at the amount of ocean data that would be in there. I don't want to oversell it, but can you give us a little bit of a hint before you tell us what's on the radar? Because this one is going to be a little ocean focused, right? You're going to tell us what's good in Sonar for the shipper and what's good in Sonar for the carrier.
Yeah, sure. You're talking about the 5.0 release?
Yeah, anything cool coming up? Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I mean, really, when we're looking at Sonar, the supply and demand within the truckload market, obviously we're trying to do the same for ocean. So we're looking at capacity utilization. We're looking at service routings, schedule reliability. I mean, there's a lot more. I could go on and on.
And this gentleman is Henry Byers. Can you introduce him? I think we even jumped the gun. We said he's the tallest man, but he's...
Yeah, Henry Byers, you've been here for, how long have you been with FreightWaves? Not even very long. You've come in, establishing yourself as something of a shipper expert here. Yeah. But how long have you been with us now?
About 3 months.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Time has flown.
You're another April hire, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, same with me.
Came from Steam, right?
Mm-hmm.
How long were you with Steam Logistics?
Steam Logistics, about 3.5 years.
Okay. So from the beginning. Like we're from an early
about a year after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like me, he comes from that sort of global logistics side. We both worked on the operations side of international trade. So it's kind of cool to have almost like an ally in perspective because a lot of people here are very carrier focused, and now we're going to try and take over the universe. Well, the world first. Then we'll bring in some space experts first. But you're going to tell us what's on the radar. So what's good for shippers right now, especially ocean shippers?
Well, literally, what's on the radar? We're looking at that super cyclone Vayu out on the west coast of India. Looking at potential disruptions for the Port of Mundra, Port of Karachi, both picking up a lot of volumes with the trade war tensions with China. So definitely something to watch out for the shippers. But overall, rates are on the decline. If we look at the Freightos Baltic Daily Index, it's really the only daily index in the world for 40-foot container spot rates. They are on decline. Now, there was a GRI that was implemented on June 1st.
That's a general rate increase if you're not familiar. And it's something that carriers just kind of institute arbitrarily. But one of the funny things, just like with inland carriers, sometimes they just don't get enforced. They'll be like, we have a GRI, you all have to pay $400. And then if there's not enough capacity, I mean, if there's too much capacity, right? All the brokers will and the shippers will be like, nah, we're not paying it.
It's canceled.
Yeah.
I'll send you an email.
You learn something new on What the Truck each and every episode.
Absolutely.
So there is this general softening that we've been talking about in freight. Are there any points of opportunity, Henry, that we're seeing? Any like surprising sectors, maybe still kind of growing in spite of all the bad news?
Yeah, I think specifically when you're talking about the maritime containerized cargo industry, I think the forwarders, the MVOCCs that were quick to realize that China may not be the future as far as some of the commodities like footwear. They say follow the footwear, follow the furniture. So a lot of the guys that were getting into Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, they're seeing their vessels full right now, where China may not be seeing their vessels completely full.
So the trade war is so at our own ports. We were talking about Los Angeles volumes. Volumes were down. May was the best month of the year since January, but year over year, they were down. And a lot of people like to instantly sort of blame the trade war, but as we know, it takes time to shift. You can't just in a month shift your entire supply chain over to Vietnam or Singapore or wherever or India or wherever you're going to move it to. So what else is on the radar? What's going to help the other side of the equation, or what should they be looking at?
Well, I think, really everybody's wondering about a pull forward. Last year, the pull forward due to the trade war had such an enormous effect on the maritime, truckload, really the entire transportation industry. So everybody's really wondering, where is the volume? Well, recently there's been reports that there will indeed be a pull forward. So we're expecting to see an early peak season this year. So I would expect vessels to be full a little bit earlier than they would have been had there not been a trade war. But certainly, again, the shift in the global supply chains. We did a study recently. Vietnam's picking up overall the most basis points in terms of percentage market share of U.S. imports, and that's kind of complicated. But also India, Malaysia, and the rest of Southeast Asia.
Will they be instituting another PSS? That's a peak season surcharge. Much like the GRI, Chad, if you're not familiar, there's a thing called a PSS, which is just another sort of accessorial that the steamship lines carry on when they're in a position of power.
Yes, absolutely. I think the BCOs, which are the U.S. importers that are contracted directly with the ocean carriers, they may not be as willing because they don't feel like global volumes are quite there and would really dictate that, especially with all the shifts you've seen to different Southeast Asian countries. But as we all know, they're pretty successful in implementing that during peak season, which since we anticipate that being a longer period of time, it's really going to be probably July 15th through really probably November, and then rates will start to decline. So I think they will get away with a PSS this year, and I would expect a GRI on July 1st and August 1st as well.
All right, well, good thing for you shippers to look out for. If there's going to be a pull forward, you might want to pull ahead of that and ratchet up in June, really increase your shipping cycle.
Yeah, and I think it's got a lot to do with, just making sure you're booking as early in advance as possible. That would be my advice.
We've had that drought in the Panama Canal for, going on, I think, 6 months. And that's been impacting some supply chains, making it, I think, hard for the East Coast in certain respects. Well, are there any updates on that? Are they still? I guess they are in the drought. Is there any sign of?
Well, they had really come back and I guess the restrictions that they had put on the draft had relieved those restrictions. So I'm not really seeing quite the impact on the East Coast.
That's
obviously
good.
Savannah, Port of New Jersey picking up a lot of volume. A lot of people were really upset with how congested the ports of LAX and Long Beach were last year.
Yeah.
So therefore, you're seeing Prince Rupert pick up a lot of volume.
What else is
Vancouver.
New?
Seattle, Tacoma. Well, it has such an enormous impact on the overall freight economy.
And the chassis issues they have over there. But you mentioned this cyclone that's coming in, and we have a storm blowing in where we got to get to our fast-paced forecast now so people know what to look forward to the weekend. Henry, thank you so much
Henry
for telling
Byers.
us what was on the radar.
Fast-paced forecast.
And we have Nick Austin joining us. What's
Stone
up,
Cold Nick Austin.
What up? How's it going, guys?
What's happening, man?
Great, man. How you doing?
I am doing well.
Yeah, it's a
I'm doing
lovely
well.
day. Did you
It is.
make the weather out there?
Well, I wish I could take credit for it, but no.
What's weird in weather today, my man?
But it is a beautiful day right here in Chattanooga, I tell
It
you.
is.
I mean,
Where
It's
isn't it
just-
beautiful though? Where do people have to look out? We've seen these flood things. You actually treated a guy driving a car through flooded conditions, and you said, "Do not do this." So, what happens when you come up to a flood like that? What should someone do?
turn around and go a different way. It's
Oh.
that simple.
Well, what if your GPS doesn't say that? It says to keep going. It still just turn around.
Every now and then you shouldn't listen to Siri.
If you see that the water is high, your GPS doesn't need to tell you
You-
that. You can see that with your own eyes, my friend.
Well, I used to play the Oregon Trail in school, and you used to have the option to ford the river. So how deep, at what point is it too deep to just drive through? What level is it at where you should just turn around?
Well, even if you have a vehicle that sits high off the ground,
Yeah.
it's not just the depth of the water,
Okay.
which is sometimes
Yeah.
deeper than you think it is.
Yeah.
It's the fact that the road could be washing out under it.
Oh.
So even if you're in a vehicle that can make it through the water as far as the height,
Yeah.
you still could end up in a sinkhole. You don't want that to happen.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yes.
just don't try it.
I agree. Wouldn't there be
That's
like
all.
a whirlpool, though, like in a cartoon, like if there was really a sinkhole there?
But what
I've
if?
seen-
But
oh,
what
I've
if everyone's doing it?
Yeah.
That means you should.
Well, I don't know, like if the person ahead of
If
you hasn't
everyone's
fallen in a
jumping off the
sinkhole.
bridge, I think I might. I don't know.
But now, I mean, in some parts of in some jurisdictions, as the saying goes, if they actually have road closed signs up because of flooding and you ignore those, you could get ticketed or possibly even cuffed and taken away.
Well,
I mean,
speaking of swirling pools of water, tell us about this pool NATO.
a pool NATO. That's not an official term, but
Oh, okay. What does it even
I'm
mean?
so surprised.
it's not in the meteorological glossary. But no,
You know what that is, though? That's a portmanteau. A portmanteau.
Which port? LA?
Yeah.
A it's a portmanteau is where you combine two words.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. Like
Very good.
Sharknado.
Yeah.
Should go on Jeopardy. You're
Or like
pretty smart.
Debrickashaw.
Yes. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, it happens. This one happened in
J-Lo.
Florida.
No, not
Like-
J-Lo. What
Like
was it?
hangry.
Tomcat.
Hangry.
Remember, like when Tom Cruise and
Oh,
Katie
yeah.
Holmes were
yeah.
dating.
Brangelina?
Brangelina.
Yeah,
Yep.
Brangelina.
Very famous one.
All right.
Yeah.
Aren't we clever?
Okay, so the
Yeah.
pool
So, yeah,
NATO.
what's going on? Like, man, like,
Pool
what
NATO.
else?
Give it to us. Pool NATO.
Well, the pool NATO. Well, basically, this happened in Florida,
yes.
some beach area. I forget exactly where, but you got winds coming off the ocean, then you have winds that are kind of being funneled between the buildings, and you get these little localized vortex, kind of a spin up like a little tornado.
So this happened in
it's
many
not,
pools?
It's not coming out of a thunderstorm. Yeah, and it
Oh.
it was a apartment building or a resort or something, and the thing just went through the pool area. You could see the water coming up, out of the pool. It just went right across the pool.
Was there
and-
like people in floats just like swirling? Or I could picture Chad doing that. I could picture you on a float just staying there holding your drink with your harmonica.
Just falling underneath the riptide.
Listen to
of
some
the
Dr.
pool.
John.
Yep. It was a neat little video. I retweeted it out.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Videos make for great podcasting.
Oh,
How
yeah.
about, speaking of pools, there's a heat wave going on out west. You might want to jump in one. So what's going on with that heat wave out
Right.
west?
It's kind of backing off now, but earlier in the week, yeah. Now 100-degree temperatures doesn't sound like a big deal for places like Phoenix or Death Valley and places like that this time of the year. But temperatures are actually a lot hotter than they even should be for early June or mid June. So
Uh-oh.
yeah, we had record highs in San Francisco area, like 98 to 102 degrees. I mean, that's pretty hot for that area.
Yeah.
Death Valley getting up to like 120. So but that's kind of backing off now. So it's gonna cool off in those areas, relatively speaking, as we head here into the weekend. So just I like to call it I call it Western sizzling,
Well, tell me about a
because it's out west,
Yeah, we mentioned with Harry. Henry was just in here
You
telling
guys
us.
totally missed my joke. Anyway,
Well, no,
sorry, he was-
Bayou.
Henry was talking about
Yeah,
Bayou
he
a little
was.
bit, wasn't
Then
he?
it might affect some port volumes, some Portmanteau volumes.
It's possible.
I'm lost here.
Okay, yeah. So the cyclone. It was over off the west coast of India. So I did see some. I would say some pretty cool videos because nobody got hurt in them. But there shouldn't have been people walking around out there. Is the thing. because the coast, the northwest coast of India is probably about 70 miles from the eye of the storm, and the winds were really strong. I mean, there were benches and trash cans and all this stuff blowing around, and there's people walking outside, and it's raining really hard. So, did it affect the ports?
Yeah,
possibly, at least
to
a minimal degree.
Has it hit? Has it made landfall?
Well, it didn't actually make landfall.
Okay.
The eye of the storm never actually made landfall.
Okay.
But the winds were really strong on the coast, even though the eye of the storm was well away from there.
Well, isn't the eye where you want to be?
Well, not the eye wall.
Okay.
Right inside the eye of the storm is where it's the calmest.
Well, you know what I want to have? I want to have
Right.
the Eye of the Tiger.
That's a great movie. And you watched a great movie.
No,
no, you just told us what it's like.
I'm
no, Hurricane Heist.
Hurricane Heist.
Hurricane
I
Heist.
missed that one in the notes.
Overall, it was pretty horrible. But it did have one good line. So someone says to this guy who has this armored car, he does, weather research and stuff for the weather service.
Uh-huh.
And the woman says to him, "Oh, so you're a hurricane hunter?" And he says, "No, I'm a meteorologist. Anyone who chases hurricanes has a death wish."
Oh.
I'm like,
Hey,
that's pretty true.
Have you seen Twister before, Chad?
Twister.
Yeah, or on mid-90s.
That was a good movie.
Yeah,
That's probably one
I
of the
feel
best,
like I
right?
did.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
I did enjoy that one.
What was that thing that they made with all like the Pepsi cans? Where remember they had to track the speed of it, and they cut up all these Pepsi cans into like little flying blades, and they let them like somehow they put like IoT sensors. I'm not really sure. It was before there was
probably
IoT.
sounds like a homemade anemometer, which measures wind speed.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Wow, homemade.
but I want to personally thank Dooner for the recommendation on Hurricane Heist. Note sarcasm.
Would you say
Nice.
this? Would you?
Yeah.
It's got a great poster. It's got a really fantastic one with like two semi trucks driving, being chased by what actually looks like a tornado, even though it's called Hurricane Heist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically
visual.
like the eye wall of the storm. So,
Yeah.
but the poster was really cool. I have to admit that.
When you watch a movie like that, do you get like a doctor gets when they watch like ER or House or something? Or are you just like yelling at the screen like, this is so wrong?
A little bit, yeah.
I bet you felt
a
that way
little
for like Sharknado. You're like, there's
No way.
no such thing.
I didn't waste my time with that one.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Sorry.
just too.
Too
You know, one
lowbrow.
thing about being a meteorologist, I could imagine, is sort of like being the quarterback of a football team, right? I mean, when things are going great outside, you're getting all the glory. When things go wrong, you get all the blame.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
But, who else are they going to blame or thank? I mean,
yeah. I mean, they got to have a target.
that's right.
You know? Well, thanks for calling it like you're seeing
Yeah.
it right now.
Hey, no
Nick.
problem.
That was a fast-paced forecast. You covered a lot of territory
You
there.
sure
Yeah, it was
did.
fun.
We got like 5 things in a wood. So if you had to give a score, I don't know. Do you rate things like 1 out of 10? Do you give 5 stars? Do you give thumbs up, thumbs down? How do you rate movies?
Oh, how do I rate movies?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess stars. I mean, like
Okay, how many
usual,
stars would you give Hurricane Heist as a free streaming movie on Netflix?
Yeah. 1.5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Maybe
Oh,
maybe a 2.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'm gonna rate
Maybe a 2
this.
out of 5.
This gets 5 stars in my
All right,
opinion.
man. Well, thank you very much for joining us,
Very
Nick. Have
nice.
Hey,
a
my
great
pleasure.
weekend.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.
We will play you out into the storm, young man. And that was a good time. I feel like we learned a lot today. And we don't always get to focus in on some of this ocean stuff, but like the storm kind of all kind of came together in this perfect storm of these the ocean thing with the cyclone, the Nick bringing with the weather, and I almost feel guilty because as you mentioned, the weather is so perfect here. It's so cherry.
Yeah, I can't ask for much more except just could it last longer. So it's wonderful here in Chattanooga, and we recommend other people consider it as an option when we're looking for talent here at FreightWaves.
What did you think of Blythe talking about the marketing of supply chain? I think it's very interesting, and I think that a lot of times, you look online, and I think people think, you talk about people trying to look here for employment. She said something really important that these stories and the careers aren't really showcased, and I think that's what we try to do here by bringing a lot of our internal people to not only show that this job is cool and that it's fun, but it's not the kind of thing that you necessarily like. A lot of us, you can fall into this position. You don't have to. You don't necessarily have to have gone to school to be a supply chain major. That's one of the cool things about it, isn't it?
I was an English major, for instance. What I loved about it was, I mean, sometimes people like, they just slay me. They just nail me. Like yes, it is about story. And as a matter of fact, that's what I think is important too. Yeah, so I mean, it's I write stories, right? So it's an amazing thing to think about. That is the narrative, the basic narrative, where we come from, what we're doing. That's what like people want to listen to. That's how people connect. That's how we can build better brands if it comes to that when we're talking about marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the connecting point. It's what people remember.
Yeah, and to hear some great stories, some great journeys. We've already had the Sultan of Sonar. He was the one that was at the Candy Conference. He's on FreightWaves Insiders. Patrick Duffy, he was on our last episode. He was on this week's FreightWaves Insiders. We have Kevin Hill that's going to be out on Monday's episode. And this will tell you the real journeys and the lenses that they're formed. That's on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, everywhere podcasts are heard around the world, as well as freightwaves.com/podcast. You can also find this very show on all of those same exact sources. You can find Chad at
FreightWaves now.
And at Chad Prevost on Twitter.
Oh, I thought you were.
And you can find me at Timothy Dooner on Twitter.
Yep, we're there and doing all kinds of multimedia productions, ramping it up one day at a time, learning something each and every day.
Each and every day. So what is your story for the weekend, Mr. Storyteller?
Well,
FreightWaves Radio, right?
Isn't it Father's Day?
It could be. I don't know. I'm away from my family for it. They're still I don't get out to Boston until
there's so many celebrations 25th. All the time. It's hard to keep up. There's birthdays, anniversaries.
Didn't we just celebrate Mother's Days? I know.
Yeah, it's exhausting. I just it's okay. You don't have to celebrate.
You ever see the movie Knock Knock? One of the funniest things it's Keanu Reeves' movie. One of the funniest things in that is that for Father's Day, for some reason his family goes away to the beach for like 2 weeks. They just leave him alone. When I get in trouble, I said that might be like the ultimate Father's Day gift.
Right. Yeah, I think you would get in trouble.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. What are you going to do for Father's Day? Other than FreightWaves Radio, which can be found?
FreightWaves Radio can be found on the SiriusXM Road Dogg Trucking Channel 146.
Ooh, I'll be twisting some knobs for that.
We'll be talking with some interesting guys. Lloyd Palom is going to be talking some data analytics, how they improve fuel efficiency with fleets. And how they've been doing that for a while. That's pretty cool. We'll be getting a weekly market playbook with market expert Donnie Gilbert. And we'll also be talking with Lane Kidd. He's going to be talking with us about the state of the industry such as he sees it right now. He's a pretty big time dude.
Nice. So no plans for Sunday, no plans for Father's Day?
Sunday, not yet. Sunday will be a fun day, but we're just going to let it be spontaneous, man. Sometimes that's how I roll.
Nice. I might just go shooting with that Kyle Cunningham over there. Me, I'm practicing every weekend, man. Just getting good and better and better and better.
You're one of a kind, driving in your electric Vespa scooter, becoming a hick each and every week.
Yeah, like a digital hick. Ooh, that sound, Chad? It's time for us. It's time for me to rev that electric scooter right off into the weekend.
All good things must come to an end.
You know what you people gotta do? You gotta bang your little cowbell into the weekend. Play your little happy harmonica. Jump on a float in that pool, NATO. Shoot your little gun at the sky. No, don't do that. That can be dangerous.
That's right. It goes down.
Yeah. When I lived in Los Angeles, they used to put out flyers on the 4th July that would be like, don't shoot your gun in the sky. It's bad.
Because what goes up must come down.
Just like this show.
Goodbye,
lover.